This film is about a family in a village in central Ceylon and about the god to whom they took their problem. We first met them walking in tears through a paddy field, trying to solve the biggest problem of their lives, the disappearance of their son, Ratnayaka. Ratnayaka was 11 years old when he vanished a year and a half ago. Eventually, they did something that people have always done. They turned for help to a god. The god to whom they turned is Kataragama, an ancient Hindu god to whom the Ceylonese of all religions are turning more and more. Once a year, there is a festival for Kataragama at his central shrine in the jungle of southeast Ceylon. While some of the traditional gods are fading, more and more people now come to Kataragama than ever came in the past, especially the growing middle class.
First I came and then made a vow to get through my exam, and I got through. And the next year I came and fulfilled it. And then again I came and made a vow to get a job, and got it.
We came to Kataragama to fulfill a vow which we have made last year. That is regarding our exams. I made a vow that if I pass my engineering part 1 examination, I'll come this year during the season and do the Kavadi dancing.
Suddenly, Ceylon has problems that she never had before. Jobs, money, promotion, success, all on a scale that the West would find hard to believe, and with total economic disaster hovering around the corner. The Ceylonese have tried all the usual answers for their economic difficulties, even revolution, but more and more now they're turning to the traditional way of solving the unsolvable, and even the government ministers now come to perform penances for the god. But Kataragama does not give his help for free. If he gives you what you ask, you must always repay him in whatever way you promised. Almost every activity at the festival is an act of payment for a favour received.
Well, when I'm really in a jam, I go to Kataragama. I don't go to church any longer. That does not mean I'm not a Christian. I'm still a Christian. I still go to church. But when I'm in a jam, I find it's more effective to go to Kataragama and I make a vow, and my burden is lifted.
When Ratnayaka vanished, he was staying here at his grandmother's house to keep her company for a bit. His mother and father came with his sisters and his small brother from their own village 100 miles away to look for him and to be there in case somehow he came back. For the year and a half since he vanished, all their lives had been centred around looking for him and waiting. Slowly, we pieced together what had happened.
Ratnayaka was my grandson, but I always called him my Kirupita, my baby. He was mad on working. I couldn't stop him. And then one day he got this job at the masons carrying cement. I didn't like it. He'd get back for his supper all cement everywhere, and his hair and his eyes, and I'd heat water specially for him. I'd bath him and rub him with coconut oil. Well, this went on for 2 days, and then I put my foot down. He was too young. It was a grown man's job that he was doing. They were only giving him 125 rupees a day. So anyway, I said he was to stop, and that's when the trouble started. The next morning, he said he was going over to the masons for his money, so I gave him a clean shirt, and he never came back. That was March, 17th of March, a year and a half ago now.
Once we got here, we didn't know what to do, really. My mother had looked everywhere. So we went to the mason again, who said that Ratnayaka had come for his money, and that was the last he'd seen of him. The only person who seemed to have any theories was the shopman up at the bus stop, who said that a boy who sounded like our boy had come and bought a banana off him that day and had caught the bus for town. So we went there to look. We've been so many times, but we didn't find him.
The police? No, we never asked the police. They wouldn't be interested. No, when we couldn't find him anywhere, we went to the local astrologer. We went to 3, in fact, to see if they'd know. But all 3 said the same thing. They said he was alive and in some village somewhere. But they all said as well that we'll never get him back.
Sometime later, Douglas went back to his own village once more to see if there was any sign of his son. To get to his house from the bus, Douglas has to pass 2 stone Buddha statues carved for a king 700 years ago. Like most Ceylonese, Douglas is a Buddhist. As any Buddhist would, he knelt to pay his respects to the Buddha and to recite the 5 precepts, but not to ask for help, because the Buddha is powerless to help.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa buddhan saranam gacchami dhamman saranam gacchami sangham saranam gacchami dutiyampi buddhan saranam gacchami dutiyampi dhamman saranam gacchami sangham saranam gacchami tatiyampi buddhan saranam gacchami tatiyampi dhamman saranam gacchami tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami panati pata vermani sikkhapadam samadhiyami musavada vermani sikkhapadam samadhiyami
Unlike the Christian God, the Buddha has no supernatural powers to help his followers. But in his need, Douglas blurted out, "Help me in this my present difficulty." Douglas went off home, but, as so often before, Ratnayaka was not there. All Buddhists believe that they have lived before and will live again, that this life is just a chapter in their whole existence. Salvation is not to be born again, not to come back to life's sufferings, to live a life so close to the Buddha's teachings that the cycle of rebirth stops and you attain the state of nothingness, nirvana. It is because he has reached nirvana and no longer exists that the Buddha is powerless to help, and because of that his followers turn elsewhere. One day, Douglas and his wife set off to try yet another astrologer in a distant village. They'd heard that he was very good. In Ceylon, people believe that the major events of your life are dictated by the good and bad things you've done in your previous lives, and that the good and bad things that you do in this life will influence the pattern of your future lives. For Douglas, the disappearance of his son is not just a chance happening. Somewhere in the past, someone in his family must have done something as a result of which Ratnayaka vanished. But no one can ever know about their past lives, and that is where the astrologer comes in. The astrologer cannot tell you about your past life, but he can see and chart the pattern of how things are going to be in the future, can chart what is called your future karma. Unsatisfied with what the other astrologers had told them, they went to try once more. "I have come," Douglas said, "to consult an oracle." The astrologer they went to bases his calculations on the time they arrived. They don't at all tell him why they've come. He looks at the clock, works it out from his book, and then he tells them. "You have come," he said, "about someone who has left a place of residence." There is no other way of getting that person back except by way of Kataragama. No other way. Not by magic or by sorcery. You must go to Lord Kataragama and implore him and give a life for a life and whatever else you can afford. Back across the river is a small temple to Kataragama, and it was here, their local temple open on Wednesdays and most Saturdays, that they took their difficulty to the god. You must, they told the priest, get the god to bring our son back, and paid him 5 rupees. The priest asked them the boy's name. He wrote the name on some betel nut leaves and told them that God Kataragama would bring the boy back within 21 days. If not, they would burn the leaves, and this would send Ratnayaka into such a trance, a madness almost, that somehow he would have to come back then. They made a vow by tying a coin in a cloth and tying that to Kataragama's lance. They vowed that if within 21 days Kataragama brought back their son unharmed, then they would bring a young coconut sapling, a symbol of their own lives, and plant it for the god outside the temple. The ritual over, they went off home to wait out their 21 days. Outside the temple, full-grown trees now are palms that others have planted in thanks for what Kataragama did for them. Douglas at home to wait out his 21 days and went to the central shrine of Kataragama, deep in the jungle of southeast Ceylon, where the annual festival for the god will begin. Most people who come to the festival don't come to ask for things, but to thank the god once they've got what they wanted, and to repay in whatever way they promised. To repay the god, there are a certain number of standard things that you can do. Douglas promised to give a coconut tree, but you can undertake to come on pilgrimage to the shrine, or to dance to the god, or to roll on the hot ground for him. You can shave your head, prick needles through your tongue and cheeks, walk on nails or on a burning fire pit, or even hang on hooks for him. But the standard thing that most people give to the god in return for helping them is an offering of fruits, which they present at the temple. But some people, particularly Hindus and Muslims, undertake to repay in much more extreme ways. Mr. Karim owned a tea shop in downtown Colombo, but 10 years ago he was a corporal in the army and involved by his superior officers in a coup against the government. Caught, and in his prison cell, he asked Kataragama to save his life. In his cell, he vowed that if the god got him off, he would, in exchange, come to the festival each year for 17 years and hang himself from hooks in his back. At his court-martial, he was acquitted. After he'd been doing it for 4 years, Mr. Kareem, following a very frequent pattern, began to feel himself possessed by the god, and now he's thought of as some kind of holy man, and people come to communicate with the god through him. Some mystic relic or symbol which no one except the chief priest had ever seen is taken on the back of an elephant on a strange journey. It's as near as you ever get to the god. The relic leaves Kataragama's shrine, passes the shrine of his wife, Obeyesekere, without acknowledging her, and finally, after ceremonial pauses on the way, stop at another shrine, the shrine of Valiama, his mistress. Jumble of different answers. Most people will tell you that he is a god well known all over southern Asia, one of the two sons of Shiva. But you hear more exotic stories, especially from the Christians and Muslims. Stories about Macedonian princes and 13th century mystics with holes in their ears. Douglas, in the village, thought that he lived in a palace somewhere deep in the jungle, surrounded by slaves and guarded by wild animals. And almost everyone believes that he comes somehow during the festival, disguised as a beggar perhaps, as a beautiful woman. But if there's no common opinion about who he is, everyone agrees about his abilities, especially his power and his ability to come up with the good. In mythology, Kataragama fought and defeated the Titans, For him, everything is possible. A living, passionate, almost human life. He's worldly, masculine, beautiful, and erotic. He doesn't preach, he makes no moral judgment. He will help anyone to do whatever they want, so long as their devotion is enough. Above all, his quality is power to do anything. The astrologer told Douglas that only Kataragama had the power to alter the influence of the stars and planets upon him. Finally, the elephant stops outside the temple of the god's mystery. This is the plan. The relic is carried inside and left behind the curtain where no one can ever go, the god alone with his mystery. Each night he stays for 15 minutes, the final full moon night till dawn. As the 21-day waiting period began to pass, there was no sign of Ratnayaka coming back. Half confident, at least to begin with, they waited for him to come. Most of the people in Ceylon who take their problems to the god have practical problems that most of us would now take to the welfare or social security department. But in Ceylon, the religious bits of life are not chopped off from the others. Douglas is not a religious man. In the corner of his house there's a lamp for the Buddha, but it hasn't been lit for a long time. He went to the god as being the practical thing to do, and some people will even tell you that the gods are nothing to do with religion, just good fixers. But even though most people go to the god with practical needs, a small percentage of the population, just as in the West, have needs of a more religious and emotional sort.
I was in England in 1958 and 59. I was attached to HMS Drake. In 1963, I thought of coming to Kataragama to take part in fire walking. Came to Kataragama, made the necessary pujas, and I went on fire walking, and I got burned badly. I was hospitalized for 21 days. Well, before I was removed to hospital, I made a vow. The vow was to cure my wounds, to safeguard me and allow me to go to work in a specified time. If it happens that I will be performing Kavadi Puja after 10 years, for 10 years I'll be doing tricks on my body, and on the 10th year I will have 108 tricks on the body with the 4 hooks on the back with the rope pulling and 1 trick on the mouth, and do the fire walking. When I got burned, it affected me mentally. I thought that God punished me for doing various things in the Navy. You know what a sailor's life is. So being a sailor, I came here. So that worked in me very badly, thinking that the God punished me for what I have done in the Navy. So I thought the best remedy for this, to get pardon from the God. So I made this vow to please Him. got into the Buddhism, it is against the Buddhism to do the tricks. I don't think I can't practice Buddhism right, at least up to the mark, But I think we are not intelligent enough to understand Buddha's teaching. I feel that when you do these things and satisfy the God, that I get the full protection to continue. And being a human being, I don't think you'll be able to live without the protection of God. You must have the protection of God. That's what I feel.
Of course, the first time I did fire walking last year, that was, I just want to, I thought that he will help me, and I did fire walk. But later, due to my past sins, I couldn't fire walk and get rid of getting burnt.
Did you get badly burnt the first time you tried it?
Yes, I got badly burnt last time. If I walk, I know that I will get His grace. His grace, by suffering, I get His grace. Because my karma is over, my sins are over. I committed, of course, I have assaulted my own father. That is the biggest sin that I have committed. I don't think anything else I would have committed. By suffering, I get rid of my sins.
I will go on the fire while meditating. Meditate and walk on the fire. So it depends on God to burn me or to safeguard me. So to do that, I'm doing these things. Satisfy Him, please Him, and ask Him to pardon me if I have done any wrong things, and to safeguard me, protect me, and send me out of the fire.
Something like 250 people walked over the fire. The next day, in the emergency hospital, there were 27 cases of burning. For all of them, the real problem was not so much the burns, but the fact that in some way they were unworthy or impure, and the God had chosen not to protect them. As the 21 days began to run out, but Nayaka had not come. By the end of the 21st day, he still had not come. When they finally knew he wasn't going to come, they had to decide whether to burn the leaves as the priest in the temple had told them to. Douglas thought they should go and talk to the priest again. But the two women were very against it. They thought the boy, wherever he was, had quite problems enough without going into the trance that the priest said he would when they burnt the leaves. In the end, they decided to do nothing.
If a person makes a vow to Kataragama God, and if his vow is not fulfilled, it is due to the sins what he has committed in this life or in the previous life, and for what he has done, he has got to suffer at some time or other. For this vow to be fulfilled, that particular suffering period must be over. That is the karma period, the karmic period must be over.
We asked Douglas about any sins that could be the cause, but he couldn't think of any. At the end, he was just beginning to have a new idea. Someone had told him about a devil dancer who was supposed to be very good. Maybe he might be able to come up with where Ratnayaka was. And then something quite strange happened. The next day, Douglas went off home to his own village to see if his rice was ripe. When he got there, Ratnayaka was waiting, having got home a day or so before. A year and a half earlier, Ratnayaka had left his grandmother's to go home to his parents, but hadn't had enough for the fare. He met a man in the station who took him to Colombo, the big city, and put him to work in a rice mill. One day, the mill owner came from India and said that Ratnayaka was too young to be working there. He gave him a 10-rupee note and told him how to get home.